Hey, what is up? We're here with a new episode of Movie News, and we have a lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. Starting off, we have the Cherry First trailer, which dropped starring Tom Holland. This was written and directed by the Russo brothers, coming out on Apple Plus in the next couple of weeks. I know it just premiered to some studio members recently. Um, I've been super excited for this film. The marketing, I think, has been really good in just showing little small images that I think have really gotten the fan base excited. Little things like this is a robbery or I have a gun on the dollar bill when he's handing like these little stills that were really, really great. But this book, my sister actually read this book and she thought it was a really good book. And when I heard about the Russo brothers adapting this, I was like, oh, this could be a really good, really, really cool story about a real life person who essentially went to war and then came back with PTSD. You know, Tom Holland said it in the trailer. He has this like ringing in his head. He's grabbing the back of his head and he becomes a drug addict and a bank robber. And it really turns his life into a downward spiral. And I think this story is a really interesting story to tell. And I think the trailer evoked all the emotions that I was looking for from the trailer and kind of what the movie should be about. And I'm really excited for that. Tom Holland, if you guys saw him in The Devil All the Time, you'll notice that he was pretty great in that. And he definitely has acting chops outside of Spider-Man, though we'll get into that in our comic book movie and TV news episode. But I'm really hyped. I thought it was a great first trailer. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't. We're going to move on to Chris Pratt's The Tomorrow War. Now, this is like a time travel sci-fi movie. Um, it may sell for $200 million, which when I heard about that price tag, I was like, "What? $200 million for a Chris Pratt sci-fi movie? That's insane." For a movie to sell for that, but it's possible. I believe I'm not 100% sure that it was Amazon. It could have been Apple or a different streaming service, but I believe it was Amazon who's looking to buy the film. And $200 million is insane. I don't care how big of a film. Just we throw out numbers for what movies make at the box office, but someone just straight up paying 200 million for film in the streaming market is pretty unheard of. Um, but I'd be really curious to see what happens with that. It seems like it could happen, but definitely something worth keeping a lookout for. Moving on, we have a update on the new Godzilla versus Kong movie. Now, there was a little bit of footage shown. It wasn't really that much, but it's epic because it's Godzilla versus Kong. If you've seen those movies, you don't really go to see them for the human storylines. You go to see them for the big action set pieces. And this one looks like it's going to deliver, and it's going to be delivered to you on HBO Max about 2 months sooner now because it just moved up from May to March 26th. That's right. We only have 2 months left until we get to see Godzilla versus Kong. I'm excited. It's crazy. I guess they figured out whatever problems they had with Legendary, which is surprising because this was a film that Netflix put in a bid of 250 million for, that HBO or Warner Brothers rejected, saying no, you can't do this, right? Because Warner Brothers helped produce this movie with Legendary, and then Warner Brothers screwed them over essentially by saying, without telling Legendary, saying we're going to put it on HBO Max day and date release, so same day release in theaters as it is on streaming. There's no precedent for that, and they didn't consult the studio Legendary, which paid for 75% of the budget of the film, which is it's nuts and it's terrible business, and it's really something you shouldn't do with a business partner. But I guess they settled outside of court. They are doing the day and date release. There must have been some transaction that went towards Legendary, because I would be pretty pissed. Because let's be honest, with how COVID's going right now, you're not going to get a lot of money from the box office in March. Let's move on. So David O. Russell has a new movie that may have as big of a cast as the Don't Look Up one with Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio, Timothy Chalamet, so on and so on and so on. That cast was massive. It actually shot in my hometown of Boston a couple months back. But this new David O. Russell movie that they've really been keeping the story under wraps. We really don't know what it's about. has a massive cast. So here are the new people that joined. Get this, these are just the new people, not the people that have already joined the film. Anya Taylor-Joy, Robert De Niro, Michael Shannon, Chris Rock, Timothy Olyphant, and that joins a film that already had Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Rami Malek, and Zoe Saldana. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the new thing in Hollywood where these films just start getting 10, 11, you know, A-list stars in their films, but it's insane. I haven't seen a cast like this in forever. I thought the Eternals cast was pretty huge, but these casts recently that they've been revealing are just next level insane of the people they're having working on these projects. Um, and it's going to have to be an expensive film because paying to have all those actors in your film is not cheap. But one thing to note is that we don't know what this film's about. Why are you talking about it? Well, here's the thing. When that many A-list stars sign on to it, a lot of these stars are picky about which projects they choose, right? Because these stars have every option essentially is available for them. So if they're picking this movie, this script, they must really think it's that great of a script if they are signing on. So this definitely boosts my excitement for the new David O. Russell movie. I'm hoping they release news. I believe production just started on it. So don't look for a trailer or anything soon, but maybe we'll get an announcement of more on what it's about coming soon. Moving on, if you guys are a fan of Edge of Tomorrow, or what it should have been called, Live, Die, Repeat, because that would have been a much better movie title than Edge of Tomorrow. It's a great movie. Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, sci-fi, aliens, invasion. I mean, it has everything in the kind of, it's the best video game movie to me that's not a video game movie. And while it wasn't financially successful because of maybe one of the worst marketing campaigns in history, the movie was great. It was like a real surprise when it came out. People did not think this movie was going to be good because the marketing was so trash. Came out, everyone loved it. Didn't do great financially, but I think it made just enough money that they warranted a sequel. They've been in development for years. It's difficult because Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise are both in really high demand, but a script is being written. I don't know if it's locked into a final draft or what draft it's in, but they're basically looking for when Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise's schedules can line up. This came from Doug Liman. I believe he was doing an interview about another project, and he was talking about updates on this. I'm excited for this. I really want to see it. I loved the first one. I'd be really curious what direction the second film goes in upping the stakes from the first. Let's move on. So we got another update. John Wick 4 could start filming this year. I can't remember what the name of the guy is. If you'll know him, he's in the third movie. When spoilers, they're like 10 seconds, not a big spoiler. They're defending this building essentially, right? John Wick, and it's the main boss, the owner of the hotel. And he said in an interview that John Wick will probably begin filming this year. Now, you guys know they were originally supposed to shoot John Wick 4 and 5 back to back. They reported that earlier. But I don't know if that's still going to be the case due to the pandemic. I think that makes it really difficult. I don't know if Mission Impossible, they're going to shoot Mission Impossible. I think it's 7 and 8 or 6 and 7. I get lost in what number they're on. But they're going to shoot the next two back to back. But I think because of the pandemic, they're only shooting one film, and then they're just going to stop and take a break, probably do post, and then get back to doing another just because of the financial situation the pandemic has created. Now, this is really interesting. John Wick is maybe the best action franchise. I know you guys are going to be like, what about the MCU? But that's comic book movies. I love comic book movies, but put those aside. I think as a straight up action franchise, this is the best I've probably seen, period. I think they're just that entertaining. The first one and how they've built out the world from film to film. I think they've really done a spectacular job of that. And so I'm really excited to see Keanu Reeves back in a fourth film. Each film builds on each other. And I think the most important thing is we're getting another John Wick film, right? And people may be like, oh, they're not filming the fourth and fifth back to back. That means instead of having a 1 year wait, which is typical for films that shoot back to back, it may be a 2 or 3 years. But if it means the quality is a little bit higher, people can be a little safer because of COVID protocols right now and the dangers of coronavirus around the world, it's worth the wait. But with that, that wraps up everything we have to talk about in movie news. So I'm going to ask you before the next thing drops right after we finish recording an episode. What do you think of all the news? Do you think that Chris Pratt's new movie for selling for $200 million is crazy? Does that mean it's that good of a movie if Amazon's seen it and said it's worth 200 million? What did you think of the Cherry first trailer? Did you think it was a great trailer? Do you kind of leave you like, I'll still see it? What were your thoughts on that trailer, as well as the cast of the new David O. Russell movie? Because that is just mind blowing. And let us know how hyped you are for the new Godzilla movie coming 2 months sooner than it was expected to. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time.